not, I can delete that. And we're back. Welcome to part 2 of Coffee, Chix, and Comics, where we were exploring our top 8 titles, first 8 titles, countdown of the 23-24 year. Yeah, so where we left off, we had just wrapped up with number 7, which was Lycos the Metal Wolf. And we are going at number 6, which is Silas. So
you, bro.
Okay, on me. I'll take lead. So Silas, what I really first of all, let me apologize. I think there's like yard work going on near me. I think my neighbors getting their grass cut. So if you hear bzzz in the background, that's what that is. All right. So Silas, the thing that I like the most about it, I think it is vivid. I think there's a lot of color and action. It's a vibrant book. I think Silas as a character is a fun person to follow around. The interaction that he has kind of at the surf shop, the interaction that he has with Infernus, with our individual titles, the way that people are having the experience of this amazing thing happen to them, the way they all process it. I mean, of course, with everyone, there's going to be a little bit of shock involved, but the flavor of shock is different from person to person and how they all respond. I think that says a lot about the character and personality of each of the folks that is helping to tell the story. So I like the way that Silas, in his own way, is introduced to this mind-blowing, reality-bending thing. Also, Infernus is a fun and interesting character. I think that's a good foil for Silas, like as he's getting his feet underneath him. To have a person like Infernus to be the person that is, or the entity, I guess, like Infernus, to be the kind of guide on that path. That's what I enjoy about that book. I enjoy the interaction that Silas has with the ill and like the promises and the kind of seeds that are planted there. I don't know if there's anything I change about it. Maybe the font style of the text of the dialogue, maybe. But the writing was dope. Like Brandon and Kevin did a good job with the writing. The story itself, like I recently reread it, like reformatting pages for printing, and I recently reread it. I was like, man, that was kind of a banger. Like that was nice. It was a good getting to know you issue. But yeah, if I had to pick a nit, as it were, maybe just a particular font. I don't know, but I'm a font guy, so I'm picky about that sort of thing. But that's it.
You're a font guy all of a sudden. You're a font guy.
What you mean all of a sudden? I've been a font guy. That's the thing. That's one of the things we first laughed about when we started talking about doing this comic thing. Like we both have, upwards of 800 fonts on our computers. That's how it is. It's a typeface world, baby.
All things typography.
I have no comment there.
All right, so that's my piece. What you got, bro?
So being the one
that crickets.
Did he freeze for anybody else but me?
He froze.
Okay, all right, just making sure. Make sure I ain't going crazy over here. Oh man,
it's a really funny picture of him freezing.
Aren't they all? I've never seen a good freeze picture. They're all something like.
Yeah, streaming has definitely not been the same this week since the eclipse, though. We've kind of been off again, then on again. Service has been really crappy here in Ohio. Okay. We've been in 2 outages this week, so there's that. But let's see if he rejoins.
I think he will. Until he does, your turn.
So honestly, with Silas, I thought Ricky and them did a great job writing it. I think I like the character. I like the way he's introduced. I think he's just, and I think I explained this in my pre-recording before we got back on here because I thought we were never going to do this again for part 2. But I think honestly that Silas is one of those characters where he's just like, dude, I like to chill. I have like this routine on a daily basis that just is surfboards, sports, chill with my friends. And now that's all been disrupted by this chaos that he never asked for. So I think he's trying to figure out where in the chaos circle, what does he have to do in order to get back to his normal routine and daily life, right? So he doesn't really want to deal with the ill. He doesn't want to deal with these weird looking things approaching him on the beach. He just wants to surf, catch waves, hang out with his boys, not be bothered with villains and superheroes and all that other crap. He doesn't care about that.
Wait.
So
where the hell did y'all go?
We're talking about Silas.
Y'all were frozen. Y'all were frozen for like 30 seconds. And I was just talking to myself.
You blipped.
You were frozen?
You blipped, dude. Like you blipped.
The two of y'all just blipped and reappeared, and we're talking about Silas, and now I'm at the bottom of the screen. Now I'm at the top right. What's going on?
The year is now 2020.
Going to the multiverse. I'm in the multiverse. This is where I am now. This is what you've dragged me into the multiverse. Did I just talk to my doppelganger just a second ago? What the hell, bro?
The year is 2028. You have blipped, and
I blipped. 5 years later.
5 years later, we still own a comic book. We kept it running all this time.
So all that said, you just said to yourself about Lyco. Say it again. I'm sorry, not Lyco. Silas.
Yeah. Silas. I didn't say anything. I was just like, "Hey guys," and y'all were all like,
I told you there is no good breeds picture.
Froze for like ever, and I'm like, not even talking back to me. I'm in here by myself. I was like, what is going on? Then y'all just pop up talking about Silas all of a sudden. No, he's on the beach fighting and he doesn't want to be a superhero. I'm like, what just happened? Fast forward in time.
That is surreal.
Anyway, like I was trying to say before we time skipped, I was like, okay, I drew the issue. I drew the issue.
You did.
And I liked how colorful it was. Again, I liked the humor that was introduced right out the gate with the cat. Like, he's a guy that doesn't take himself entirely too seriously, which I love about him. He brings a sense of humor. He doesn't learn heroism until later, which Infernus is trying to teach him and coach him up. I'm hoping that, as we learn more about him, why he became what he is, why they chose him to become, the ordained for the Earth, like one of those guys. Like his true character starts to shine through. Like this true, like, okay, I can see why he came. Why we chose him, because he's got just good character. So he's not just a goofy teenager. You know what I mean? So that's what I love about it. I love the humor. Again, that to me is staple to those series of issues, is just keeping that humor going and then sprinkling in those serious moments. But yeah, absolutely, man. That's one of my favorite issues so far, I think, is the Silas stuff. So
Excellent.
All right, so coming in at number 5, we have the Notoria hired. I'm going to start since I helped co-write the episode or the issue. So I don't think it was a miss episode or issue or book. I think it explained how the two people that really are so random in the beginning of issue 1, the end is my beginning, came together in the first place, right? So you have somebody who's just a science lab rat teamed up with a vigilante / I don't know. There's so many different things to call Lycos at this time. So it kind of narrows those gaps, right? So it goes into the fact that he does have science in his DNA and that he is exploring what's going on with the human race as they're being turned into these ill-looking creatures. But it also explains him as a metahuman And to that extent, the side effects of him being infused with elemental one for so long. So I think, can there be more to that? Yeah, I think there could be a part 2 of the You're Hired, or like a sub channel book where it kind of goes into all of that. But I think Brandon did a good job at showing Lycos's anger. Lee did a good job at making stuff blow up on pages. And it was our first black and white, classically traditional comic that was done, which I was like, that was pretty dope. So the only thing that was in color was the cover. So I think the reason it didn't do well is just because of the timing that it came out. We kind of ran 2 issues back to back. Like, or this one dropped right as the same time Genesis dropped. And if you have to choose which one you really want to read, I mean, well, you know, learning the binary gods and the reason why we're all here might supersede it. So if you have not read it, You're Hired, I would say go back and read it. That's my take on that. Guys?
Agreed.
So in the way that The End Is My Beginning drops us right into the action, Genesis zooms way out and gives us the universe environment that we're playing in. Issue 3, You're Hired, zooms in a little bit more and explains why the first 2 people, the first 2 heroes that we meet in The End Is My Beginning is Lycos and Mars. There's a reason for that. If they are kind of our grounding point, especially Mars being the grounding point for the Natura title, we need to make sure, we need to see what tracks that train is running on. I think that You're Hired does that in many ways. It shows not just some background on who Lycos is and how, you know, Element 1 works, or works with him anyway, but it shows us where Mars comes from, why she's important, why she matters, why the 2 of them click. You know, we see the spark that begets this partnership that we're going to see over the course of the Natura story. So that is one of the things that I really appreciate about that particular book, and the way that it was brought around was it gives us step 1, right? If The End Is My Beginning essentially puts us at step 4, right? Genesis gives us step 0. This gives us step 1, where the root of the team that will be came from, why they are connected the way that they are. I dig that. I don't know what else there's to say. Like, I don't think there's anything that I would change about it. Like, it's dope as a black and white. I've imagined it while reading it. I've imagined it in color, and it's, you know, wouldn't be the same, I guess. Like, it fits. It fits for what it does the job it was supposed to do.
Yeah.
And it makes me excited for the rest of the stuff that we're going to see.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
So again, responsible for drawing that issue. I did it in black and white. One, only because when we were in a hurry up offense at the time when it was written to try to get it out. But the idea was to make it a flashback comic, essentially. It's a day in the life and times of Mars, and you get to see where she's coming from, her exploits to get to where she is with working with Black Industries and Moses Black himself, and meeting the man himself. But we had talked about it, seeing Lycos outside the armor, and what does that look like? How is this set up? Who's assisting him? Who's the man or woman in the chair? You know, helping him out on missions. Like, hey, you take a left here. You know, bad guy to your right here. Whatever. Like, you get to see that early on. Then you get to see him kind of after battle. Like, you don't see sometimes, you know, heroes go through stuff and then you don't see the afterwards of it. Like, oh crap, like, yeah, you got this armor on, homie, but you still took some damage. Like, you still took a considerable amount of damage, and you got to patch up. So yeah, this armor, it may be magical, it may be alien in its nature, but you still took some hits. You got to heal up, right? And so it's also causing you to feel a certain type of way towards your fellow human beings. Like, you got to find a way to mentally overcome it in order to kind of use the power of it to your advantage. So he's trying to figure it out as well. But you got to see what Moses looks like after the battle. You got to see what Moses looks like, okay, in entrepreneur philanthropist mode. Like, what does that look like? When you go sees Mars at the competition at MIT, you're like, oh, okay, I put the competition on, you know what I mean? And I'm talking to the director, and people don't realize, like, oh, shit, that's the director from the very first Trapper issue. Right. She's got a pivotal part in that issue, and he intercepts the potential. This could be a potential game changer for Mars in a negative way if he doesn't intercept the director's, like, influence, right? So she's there to pick the pockets of those freshly new, MIT students, man. And I dropped a minor Easter egg in there that hopefully maybe I can let play out later on in another issue, but creating a villain, maybe. I don't know if anybody ever picked it up or looked at it or read it early enough to see it, but I left a minor Easter egg in there. We'll see. What else? Yeah, she's like you said, the anchor point to a lot of this is starting the step one, the very first like person that gets it, like, oh crap, there's bigger things happening around us that we're not prepared for, and this guy is absolutely tracking it. I gotta help him out. So apparently there's some stuff going on, and I just got these superpowers. Like, what the hell are these things? Like, how do I even manage these things? And do I tell my newly, my new boss that I just interned for about it? Like, do I even tell them that? Like, it's all this crazy dynamics that as a character from Mars, trying to figure this all out. Like, how do I figure these things out? And then Lycos is just trying to get the mission done. Like, I'm just trying to get this stuff done and figure it out. So fuck what you talking about. So anyway, yeah, that's it.
All right. So coming in at number 4 and number 3 are the Trapper issues 1 and 2. And really, they both kind of came in at the same time together. So, but 2 or the 2 did a higher sell than 1, only because I think where it happened was that everybody bought Trapper 1 our first year, and they were pissed because 2 wasn't on the market. So we had an overexplore, and overbuy of 2 everywhere. And then I think at some point we got caught at a lot of festivals last year as our first year out without 1, and people still bought it anyway because they wanted to know who
issue
the
1. That's a good problem to have.
Yeah,
and I'm glad that they run concurrent. Like that's nice. Considering that it at one point was 1 book that ended up getting split into 2 because there was so much. Man, I was, like I said, I've been formatting
65 pages.
Yes, a lot. You did that. So I've been formatting the pages for print. Speaking of which, heads up to everybody who's watching. Like, the comics are available. 50comix.com, 50FIFTY comics within X.com. You can buy the digital copies right now. Like, all the stuff that we talking. Like, go visit the website. Go buy the books. Like, go and read them. Like, it's happening.
Buy our books.
So
or the digital copies.
Yeah. Get them. It's funny. You can tell that that Enough is Enough, Trapper Part 1. I'm sorry, Trapper, Enough is Enough, Part 1 is some of Lee's early digital work. You can tell, not that it has a look. You can, if you put that next to Genesis, you can see the progression. You can see how much he's grown. But at the same time, the first go round, Enough is Enough Part 1 and Part 2, they do set the foundation for the type of visual vocabulary that we use, the look that we have, the style that we are presenting. And I listen, man, that fight between the gangsters, man, between Duda and Clean, that is some brutal stuff. But it shows you, like, the type of it sets the stakes. It shows why Tyree kind of has to have his head on a swivel because this is the type of danger that we're dealing with. I mean, we start in the first few pages with a drive-by shooting. You know what I'm saying? So the danger is set up for us immediately. Man. Oh, also, I'm highly biased. I wrote it, so yeah. Oh man, I don't want to do what I would change because it's dope, man. It's dope. It was even the moment that the fact that it was finished, and I still have the proof up here on my bookshelf to have to hold a comic book that you wrote, that you created. Like this is real in the real world. Like man, they ain't no beating that.
Fact.
So yeah, it was that. What it does is it turns my fire up because that's just the beginning, man. There's so much that we still have to unwrap in the trapper gift, as it were. So I'm glad people got a look. Also, if you already have issues 1 and 2, you might want to go and get that digital copy, especially of issue 2. I took it upon myself to make a little bit of change, and our lead illustrator said it was okay. So I want you to see that. But you can only see it if you get that issue 2 on the digital release. Coming soon to print, but get it on the digital release now. Like get it now. Get it now. That's it. That's all I got. I love it. It is a book that is very close to my heart. I love it. I love it. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much else to follow up behind that. I mean, it's the first time I was able to put pen and paper to a comic that, that was our, outside of Natura, but that was our other flagship title. And we were trying to get something out there that made sense. And I think we accomplished that goal for sure. We got people liking it, following it, the whole shebang, man. So I think it's a good issue. I can't wait for issue 3 to start and be able to work on that because I think there's a lot of exciting things coming up. I think you wrote into some really, really complicated situations for our characters. So I'm curious to see how you're gonna get out of it. So we'll see. But I appreciate you setting me up for success for sure.
Yes.
All right. Coming in at number 2 is the Notoria, The End is My Beginning. I wrote it. I wasn't supposed to write it. It wasn't supposed to exist, but it does. And I think it was just because we were like, we're going to do this. This is going out the door. It's done. We're doing it. This is like throwing out here who's the company, what the purpose is, So we sent Mars and her team at that time it was 4 years into the future, which is now next year. We sent them into the future. We sent them into a future look of what happens when chaos starts attacking on this side and people are actually starting to take notice, and that there were so many different things and elements and Walking Dead to kind of create around it, along with defining that our dead are not dead, they're the undead, they're ill, they're still alive. How do we make this work? Who are these people alive? And everybody's like, how can they still be alive if there's a hole in his chest? And the concept there, I was like, well, if you look really closely, it's a hole, but it's a little teeny tiny heart that's still in there. It's just decaying. It hasn't burnt out. So, but we weren't killing. We weren't killing anything. So this was kind of one of those kind of, all right, here's the characters. Here's their powers. Here's what essences are. Here's what, and just like kind of all this chaos. And now it's like, okay, how can we now then tell all this chaos into smaller stories? So we now gave you the Avengers 20 years into the future ahead of time before all of the origin stories. And then came back and gave you the origin. So I think honestly, it was a very good launch. I think it did what we wanted it to do. It got people interested in our artwork. It got people interested in the story concept and learning more about the Notoriaverse and what it stood for and what the fight was and presenting the threats. I think it did a really good job explaining our essences. I think where the flaw kind of was, and we kind of missed the boat, and I think that was because we were all still trying to wrap our heads around what we were doing ourselves, is how we can explain the ordained better. And I think in their individual stories, I think that's where we are going to figure out and understand what these ordained elements actually are and how they inherit their powers and what does that mean for the world, let alone the fight that they're fighting. So but the two creators of this entire verse can take over what they thought of the first book in the series.
In the interest of time, I will
In the
mostly
interest of
rubber
time.
stamp everything that you said.
Okay.
There's not a lot more to add to it. I'll say this though. One of the things that, especially, new creators, we are excited about getting our thing out there. We got time and we got issues to unravel some of the finer details. Like, everything won't be explained in one book. We got time, and it'll be worth the investment to see how the rules are explained, and then to see how the game is played. So stay tuned.
Cool. Yeah. Nothing more to add to that. I mean, I'm really just here. Just to, yay. Comics.
Yay, comics.
Yay, comics.
All right. And then coming in at number 1, the newest of the Notoria issues that were released, Genesis, which explains our binary gods, both sides of the realm, so much more. Of course, it's sitting right next to you. All the issues that we've talked about today, and that's the one you could put hands on right away. Because he drew it.
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah.
I'm starting to feel like there's a coup going on that I didn't know about. So I'm just going to do this.
I mean, what are you saying? What are you saying?
Just saying.
You see what's in my background?
Just saying.
It is absolutely lovely.
It is beautiful.
All right. So real quick, in 2 minutes or less, let's hear it, guys. What do we think about Genesis? Besides that, it was absolutely immaculate artwork. And every time I tell a writer how you guys came up with the concept of doing this backwards, of him drawing it and then you writing it, they go, what in the hell? I can't do that. So, how was it for you?
Nothing else you take from this one, in my estimation, scope and scale. Like, that was what we were going for. And what I was going for sure. The images that Lee handed to me were those on a cosmic scale. Like, they were universe filling. And so I wanted to try and put words to it that sounded and felt large and at scale. So that was the approach. I was going for something lofty and huge, and to match the images that I was looking at, world creating images. And I think it hit.
Yeah, I mean, it was about visually telling the story. That's why I'm an artist. My job is to visually communicate and tell stories, and then allow my brother to fill things up with words to make it look pretty and sound pretty and make it sellable. So what I did.
Well, I think you guys did an immaculate job with making it look pretty, sound pretty, and tying a lot of pieces together from issue 1 to now, and some of the ways that our team gets their powers. So that is it. That is our top 8. Thank you guys for sticking with us for part 2. Again, you don't have to watch this all at once. It's going to be released in 2 parts. So if you missed the first part, go back and watch it. And if you're watching the second part, I hope you watched the first part. But thanks for joining in. And until next time, this is Nation from Mars from Coffee, Chix, and Comics. Thank you guys for being our guests. Like, share, subscribe, Go to our website, 5050comics.com. Check out new merch on Etsy or on our site. And we'll see you next time. Deuce.